we will get started. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Amber Rowden. I'm the community storyteller at Rainforest, Alberta in Calgary. We have a very special session for today, but I'm going to start and introduce the Rainforest, and then I will introduce our special guests. So just let me share my screen. Just bear with me. I usually struggle at this part, but I will get there eventually. Okay, so welcome to Rainforest Lunch Without Lunch. So in the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, the Kainai, the Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Inqli Nakota Nations, the Métis Nation, Region 3, and all people who make their home in the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. For those in the Edmonton area, we acknowledge the traditional lands of the Treaty 6 territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nakota, Sioux, as well as the Métis. These sacred gathering places provide us with an opportunity to engage in and demonstrate leadership on reconciliation. Thank you for your enthusiasm and commitment to joining Rainforest Alberta and doing so. And we also encourage, if you aren't in Calgary, Edmonton, Alberta, please feel free to share your own land acknowledgement in the chat. So what is Rainforest Alberta?
What does it take to realize an idea or for a seed to sprout? At Rainforest Alberta, we know the answer is rooted in trust. Traditionally, Albertans have cultivated their ideas in established systems. Inputs that don't fit these systems are weeded out. Opportunities for growth are missed. But now, Albertans want a dynamic landscape that can evolve organically, like a rainforest. At Rainforest Alberta, we believe a culture of trust is the fertile soil where ideas grow. Our budding innovation ecosystem is a network of relationships pulling each other up as they push forward in their own field. Trust breaks down barriers. An open, inclusive network increases collaborative innovation. Successful breakthroughs inspire new ideas. A cycle begins. Rainforest Alberta is a movement to amplify trust by cultivating honesty, inclusion, and accountability. How? Our social contract holds us accountable to demonstrate trust across the province. We meet to have honest conversations around collaboration. This leads to more inclusive spaces for everyone to fearlessly build new ideas together. By raising the standard of trust, Alberta's ideas, talent, and resources can be evergreen. Visit rainforestab.ca to sign the social contract and start growing together.
Okay, so we also use 6 pillars to guide our conversations and actions. Not all are weighted equally. Like any ecosystem, the right balance is crucial. These are measured each year through our scorecard assessment. So 30% is weighted to culture, 20% for leaders, 15% for resources and policy and infrastructure, and 10% for engaged activities and role models. So tips to making the most out of Lunch Without Lunch. Introduce yourself in the chat. So if you're new to the Rainforest, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat or put an emoji on the screen. I know we can't all see each other right now, but please use an emoji and let us know that you're new so we can connect with you. Connect with individuals through direct messages. We're all about creating connections and those wild connections and meeting new people. Put your camera on. It's always great to see faces, especially in the virtual, since we can't be out in person. It's great to see faces. Ask questions, ask your questions in the chats. Keep connecting on our Rainforest Slack workspace. Check out the lunch notes for capture of today's chat, and all of our Lunch Without Lunch recordings are posted on YouTube after the sessions. So today we have 2 very special guests that are joining us. And so Rebecca is a serial entrepreneur, an ally to the next generation, and a relentless architect of possibility. She's the founder and CEO of Inqli, a social marketplace connecting learners to the knowledge, mentorship, and opportunities that lead them to meaningful careers. Rebecca has worked alongside world-renowned educators, researchers, and technologists as she's followed the thread of human growth and development from the classroom to the workplace and back again in search of transformational systemic change. Rebecca envisions a world where everyone has access to opportunities, for meaningful work and fulfilling lives. And Margo Purcell is a visionary in leadership and organizational development, keeping pace with our ever-changing business environment. Margo continues to pioneer innovative approaches to help individuals and organizations realize their potential. She has built her career around equipping organizations to be adaptive with a focus on building the essential competencies an uncertain future requires. Margo is the CEO and co-founder of InceptionU. Margo has worked with clients across multiple industries, including the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. I'm very excited to have you both here. So without further ado, I will pass it on to Margo and Rebecca.
Thanks so much, Amber, and thanks everyone for making the time to be here. Rebecca and I are really excited to be sharing something that is about the ecosystem. So we were talking ecosystem before we started. We're going to continue to talk ecosystem, which is what Rainforest Alberta is all about. A little bit about InceptionU. So with InceptionU, we are working to develop the talent our ecosystem needs and that the ventures need so that they can grow and stay and keep talent in Alberta. And that's really been our focus. You may be aware of and heard of the Evolve Full Stack Developer Program. Through that program, we've been really fortunate to engage with Inqli and with Rebecca and her team. Rebecca was introduced to InceptionU through someone we are all likely familiar with, which is the fantastic, fabulous Jim Gibson. Jim introduced Inqli to us, and we found a lot of connection, a lot of opportunity. In our previous cohort, we're into cohort 6 now, and in our previous cohort, we did do a small pilot on the user experience of Inqli. And now what we're excited to do is start opening up and preparing to get Inqli out into hands of others. And that's the next stage of this pilot, which is part of inviting all of you in here today so that you can learn more about it, because it's looking at the mentor side of things. And then with cohort 6, we'll be able to do the user side of things. Part of it is making sure that they have some mentors to be engaging with. And being a mentor is really a big part of ecosystem development. Having mentors and having access to different knowledge and understanding and experiences and perspectives is a really key part of talent development across the ecosystem. And we want to do our part in working with Inqli to make sure that we are developing the talent that is needed here as widely as possible, and to give all sorts of opportunities for people to be able to engage with that potential talent. So what we're going to be sharing with you, and I'm going to let Rebecca do a lot of this speaking as well, what we're going to be doing today is creating some of those opportunities for you to be able to engage with and start shaping in different ways, start shaping that talent that is coming out onto the market and engaging with them. So with that, what I would like to do is pass over to Rebecca.
Hi, everybody. So exciting to be here. As a Alberta born but transplant to Vancouver Island, it's exciting to be with all these Albertans. I feel like I've got my people. So thanks for having me. And yeah, somehow I ended up starting a company in Victoria, yet still gravitating back to the Alberta ecosystem. And not sure quite how that happened, but I'm really glad it did. Well, Jim Gibson, we all know Jim Gibson. He'll just drag everybody back to Calgary. So I'm really happy to be here and to be sharing with you certainly our perspective at Inqli on mentorship and what that means, and how we can expand that access to absolutely everyone who wants and needs it. So you may have noticed over the last year and a half or so, the world has changed quite a bit. And in many ways, it actually hasn't changed very much at all. We are just much more aware of some of the gaps that we already knew were there. And so I know in this group of innovators, I don't need to highlight that. That's clear to everybody. And so I just want to give you a little bit of background on where my journey with this began. I actually founded a not-for-profit called Rethink Thinking back in 2016, and worked predominantly with grade 9 to 12 students and post-secondary students on really uncovering what it was that were the challenges to their transitions into the world of career and workplace. And I opened up the biggest can of worms I've ever opened up in my life. So I refer to Rethink Thinking as my incubator, but really it was an opportunity for me to get really up close and personal with what these challenges look like for young people. I have young people in my life. I have a daughter who's 18 years old, and my husband has 2 kids who are 21 and 25. So I'm living and breathing that with our 3 kids on a regular basis, seeing their evolution. So I think what I really want to say about mentorship is that my experiences with mentorship have been life-changing. So I've had all kinds of formal and informal education in my life, and I've had the access to many mentors because I was lucky enough to be born in the right postal code and to go to the right school or have the right community or have the right parents to have that community accessible to me. So entrepreneurship was something that was like in my blood, and it was all around me. So I didn't know how to do or be anything else. And that's not most people's reality. So as I became more and more aware of my own privilege in that respect, it started to become really obvious to me how not accessible that was to everyone. And it really, really should be. So I followed that from the classroom all the way through to Fortune 1000 companies and looking at that challenge and what it means to access opportunity and what we call social capital. So everyone who's part of Rainforest, Alberta, I'm sure is really, really familiar with what it's like to have social capital. This is an amazing community of people who support each other, show up for each other, mentor each other, give each other advice and resources and connections. And that's really the essence of what social capital is. And that should be more accessible to more people. And I think I probably share that perspective with most people on the screen, that we want to be inclusive of everyone who wants to participate and make the world a better place. So with that, I'd love to ask you, Margo, to share with me your experience when it comes to mentorship and how that's played a role in your life.
Thanks, Rebecca. I give a significant amount of credit to where I am in life and career right now to the power of a mentor in my life. So I am a former insurance broker, and so how am I where I am now doing what I'm doing when my career pathway could have been very, very different? And when I had some life experiences that made me really stop and say, where am I now? More importantly, where am I going? It led to all sorts of conversations. And much like Rebecca, I have a really rich network of people. And in those conversations, one person suggested that I speak with this person and do some career exploration, which I did. Following the career exploration, one of the processes was reach back out to your network, do some informational interviews. And we stayed in touch, the person who offered the program. When a few years later, one of the things that he asked is, hey, so how can I help you? And I remember that I actually felt the words come from my stomach, up my throat and out my mouth, and I couldn't believe I said them. And I said, I need you to help me make me into a business. I have no idea how to do it. I'm pretty sure I've got what it takes. I need someone to help me do that. He's like, I can help that. And it was from that person taking me under their wing that I was able to get into doors I never would have gotten into before, that I was able to build the knowledge and understanding, both the technical knowledge in and around leadership development and team effectiveness and communication, as well as the understanding, how do you actually even be a business? How do you grow a business? I used to joke around, I have no business being in business. I didn't go to school for that. What I did was I learned that through a mentor. And mentorship has played a role in my life ever since. And so if we even look at the work that I'm doing right now, I consider my colleagues and co-founders to be some of my greatest mentors that I have. We learn from each other. We built a really diverse team with really different backgrounds that we're constantly learning from each other. We're constantly learning from the people in the room. The learners, we're learning as much from the learners as the learners may be learning from us as well. So I credit mentorship with me being where I am today. So I'm going to put in the chat box, we have a question for all of you. And what experiences have you had with mentors? How did they help you in your life and career? Because it might not only be career where mentors have helped and guided you as well. So feel free to put any responses in the chat box and we'll be monitoring that. And with that, I'll pass back to you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Margo. I love that that's where you segued back to me. Margo is one of those people for me, and I have had, and as is Jim Gibson, and I've had the privilege of having some pretty amazing people either see something in me or see a connection between the two of us and our, you know, personal and professional missions. And I think that I really do believe that the more you are out there trying to make the world a better place, the more you will find people like the Rainforest Alberta community that are trying to do the same. And those are always the people that are going to help lift you up and do that. So as I mentioned earlier, my work with Rethink Thinking is what ultimately led me to where I am today. So if you ask anyone in my family or anyone I went to high school with or anyone who knew me even 10 years ago, no one, including me, would have predicted that I would have been the CEO of a technology company. In fact, it's quite humorous to my children who think that I can't turn on my computer. And so I think what is really important about that is, like Margo said, you know, that one particular relationship was so instrumental and critical in her life. For me, that's been dozens and dozens of people who have in some ways shown up for me for 15 minutes and in some ways have shown up for me week after week after week, or questions asked, or you know, really just really diverse perspectives. Because in order to start a technology company when you have no business being in business, which I've been in business my whole life, and I would self-describe as someone who has no business being in business either. I'm very human focused. Process is a challenge for me. I hire and attract people who are very process oriented and outcomes focused, because I am, like Margo, a big ideas person, and I need those other people on my team who will bring things back down to dotting I's and crossing T's. So as you build out your relationships with people that ultimately help you be successful, what I really saw in this younger generation of people was this desire and craving, you know, and when I say young people, I'm talking like, you know, 15 to 29 is youth in Canada. And that craving and desire and need never changes. Whether you're 18 or 80, we are all learners always. And so I really recognized that we didn't need to build a community for youth. We needed to build a community for us all that served needs that weren't being served by LinkedIn or Quora or Reddit, that's very questions driven, but is about connections to mentors that you can trust. You know who they are, you know where they come from, you understand their experience and their credibility when they're replying to you. And that's not an easy thing to do. And to top it off, what my focus was making this network accessible. So I didn't want anyone who's a user who has questions and learning that they want to participate have to pay for this. I didn't want their parents to have to pay for it, or their families. I didn't want education institutions to have to pay for this, because if any of those parties have to pay to use this network, it's absolutely inequitable from the start. So that was the biggest challenge. And why Inqli exists today is because we uncovered a business model with a value proposition to our Fortune 1000, Fortune 500, and larger companies that are very much seeking to involve their people in virtual volunteerism. And that is where our mentors come from. That is who pays to use the platform. And so the beauty of that is that everyone else, not-for-profits, organizations like Rainforest Alberta, education institutions, can use the platform for free, and will always be able to use the platform for free, because our value proposition to our larger enterprise customers is engaging them and their people in virtual volunteerism. And it's not only something that engages their people, it's critical to their bottom line. And so what Inqli does is actually creates these connections, but it's not one-to-one mentorship. We don't need an hour of your time once a week or once a month. It's really asynchronous, and it's really driven by, it was a lot of work to figure out how to put together all the pieces so that mentors could ultimately protect their own time. If you want to go on a vacation for 2 weeks, you're not leaving people hanging on the platform. There's lots of other people there. Questions are matched based on skills, experience, expertise, and you don't have to reply to any questions that don't engage you, that you're not interested in, or that you just don't have time to reply to. And nobody on the other side asking those questions will ever even know you've been matched to it until you choose to engage with it. And that was a really critical component, because one of the things we're seeing is that amazing mentors, like very skilled and experienced people that are on this screen, weren't able to show up because life is so busy and have our fingers in so many things and so many people demanding our time and energy. And are you going to pick your family, or are you going to pick a mentor session? And that's really a challenge that all of us face. So making a platform that was as accessible to the learners, as accessible as it could be to the mentors, to really be able to manage and control their own time and still have that be effective and useful, was really about a big journey for a user experience discovery that ultimately InceptionU and many other education institutions and learners were involved in. So I think what we just really want to share with you today is the opportunity to get involved in and with your own community and ecosystem in Calgary, but also beyond. Really, the goal here, we are piloting in September with an organization called Contact North out of Ontario that provides virtual learning access to remote and largely Indigenous communities in northern BC, and connects them to all 25 post-secondary education institutions in British Columbia. And the goal of that, they're already doing that in Ontario. They now have the contract through the provincial government in BC. And the goal is to roll that out across the country so that all of our learners, remote, Indigenous communities, all have access to the same opportunities for learning. And as we all know, access to that education is not enough. We need to connect them to student supports, everything from mental health to career and mentorship support, i.e. Inqli, to the opportunities to connect with tutors after hours, opportunities for digital badges and credentials around volunteerism, around expertise that they develop through this programming outside of their post-secondary experience. And of course, very importantly, work integrated learning. So a partnership with Ripen as well for work integrated learning opportunities. So that's a pilot that's happening in September. We have another pilot in the US. So we're really growing the community, and it's really starting here in Calgary, which is really exciting. And through the beauty of our partnership with InceptionU, we've had some really incredible learners involved in developing the platform for many months now. Throughout these COVID times, it's been very interesting to be working virtually with all these incredible learners who have informed the user experience. And now it's time for us to bring mentors into the experience and really get feedback on your experience, refine that, fine tune that before we roll out into pilots. So this platform will not be available to the public. It is only available to people who are invited into the beta through select communities like Rainforest, Alberta, and other parts of the Calgary ecosystem, because we're really looking for that early stage feedback so that we can ultimately make this the best platform possible. And we need people like you to do that. So it's really an opportunity that we want to offer that is not only an opportunity to join the Inqli community, but through that Inqli community, there will be other opportunities to engage in mentorship through InceptionU and their Phonotech and other programs, mentorship opportunities through NICER, which is another Calgary organization providing informational interviews and job interview practice through mentors as well. So we're really looking to provide a diverse set of opportunities that can really suit what anyone is looking for, but that's also managed to your own time, you know, how you want to show up as a mentor and when you do. If you want to take 2 months off and travel another country, you're not worried that you're leaving people hanging. And that's really important in the way that our world works today. So with that, I will take a breath and pause, because I think there was some cool stuff in the chat, Margo, and
There's been some neat stuff. Yeah. And what's really interesting, so in the InceptionU program, what we also do, so while they are building the technical competencies to be able to do the software development and so on, we also do focus a lot on what we call the essential skills. And mentorship is actually part of the learning. We strongly encourage, because we know that working in the field of tech is not an individual sport, it's a team pursuit. And so we know that they need to be able to collaborate and communicate, and that learning deepens when we actually help and share our understanding with someone else. You can find some of the holes in some of your own understanding when you're trying to mentor someone else. They say, oh, I don't understand the jump from here to here. You might find a hole in your own understanding. You might find, oh yeah, that's another concept that I've just understood is part of it. That's actually something that someone has to learn, and it helps you uncover some of that. So we have mentorship within the program as a big part of it. I'm noticing that some of the comments in here as well, that sometimes, and mentorship can come in lots of different forms. And when we get advice from a bunch of different people, we can take the pieces and see the patterns of what applies to us. So advice can be a way of doing mentorship. One of the other ones is when people say, oh, I've never mentored before, so I can't mentor. Well, that's one of the beauties that we appreciate. And one of the reasons that we are working so collaboratively with Inqli is it helps people who want to mentor with being able to be a mentor. It helps with, it's built into the platform. How do I give advice well? What questions do I ask? And the platform helps you become an even better mentor. On the learner side, what'll often prevent people, we've heard, from engaging with a mentor is, I don't want to sound like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to ask a stupid question. We're of the firm belief there are no smart and no stupid questions. There are effective and less effective questions. And so again, the Inqli platform helps with people being able to ask more effective questions so you can actually get the knowledge that you're really looking for. So it's really well thought out. And as Rebecca's saying, we need to have the mentors on the other side. And this is where we want to make sure we created this opportunity for this amazing ecosystem to be able to engage with it. And again, it's a way for you to be able to engage with talent early and often. And if we really want to see that the talent that is coming into our organizations has that understanding, has that capability, has that curiosity, what a great way to be able to help shape talent as it's coming out into the work world as well. So it is this opportunity all around that we're pretty excited about. That's a lot of what I saw in the chat box here.
I also just saw a great question about mentoring versus what type of mentors are you seeking? How do you view the difference between mentorship versus coaching? I am so glad you asked this question. Who was that smart person who asked this question?
Chantal.
Chantal. Thank you for that brilliant question. So one of the things that Inqli is focused on doing is, like Margo said, helping prepare people and helping to guide what it looks like to ask great questions in order to get the information that you're seeking in the first place is a lifelong skill. None of us are ever going to be perfectly awesome at asking all the right questions all the time. But it certainly helps to be learning and be prompted in that way throughout the platform and the user experience. But on the flip side, as a mentor, one of the things that we're doing is I view mentorship as a triangle. And the reason for that is because it really helps me remember what hat am I wearing when I'm showing up as a mentor? And as the mentee on the other side of that, what hat am I looking for a mentor to be wearing? So I look at that as the three hats. And a lot of this is my own leadership training with an amazing organization called Roy Group that does some work in this area as well and works with a lot of Alberta organizations. So this came from Ian Chisholm, who's another one of my amazing mentors, and it really stuck with me because it's really about coaching, instruction, and advice. As a mentor, whether we're working with our people in our own organization, our children, or we're teaching, or whatever it may be, we're really wearing one of those three hats. Is the person on the other end who is seeking answers to their questions, are they looking for instruction? It's a simple problem. I know you know how to solve this. Give me instructions, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how you build a birdhouse or whatever the thing may be. And that's sort of the simplest part of mentorship because we all grew up being taught. So we understand how to give instruction really, really well. Advice is for those more complex problems of, I solved this problem in this way. I did these things to get what you're looking for. Here's my advice. But there's a number of ways that you can interpret that advice. And providing resources is really helpful in that circumstance to really help people open their eyes to ultimately further questions. And that's those more complicated problems. And I refer to coaching as being really for those much more complex problems. I don't actually know, nobody knows how to solve the problem I'm looking to solve for me today. And what I really need is deeper questions. I need somebody who's reflecting back to me and asking good questions so I can really get to the bottom of what it is that I need and want with the questions that I have. And that's where coaching comes into play. So that's one of the things we're doing on the platform, is providing that kind of content so that we all, I don't think there's a person, is there anybody on the screen who considers themselves an expert coach and they would never in a million years need to learn more? Oh, there's somebody, Peter's a pro. He's laughing at himself now because he knows that's not true. I've never met, especially someone who's had a lot of coaching training. I've never met anyone with a lot of coaching training. Has anyone ever been in like coaching dyads where you're coach, coachee, and super coach? I love those kinds of experiences because as a coach, when I'm coaching someone else and then someone's coaching me on my coaching, oh my goodness, does it open my eyes to things I miss and nuance in the conversation. So really, if you've never done that before, it's a really incredible way to kind of learn quickly what you might be missing. But the beauty of being able to do this through technology is this is just learned practice behavior. And we all need better communication skills. We all need better coaching skills. We all need to stop giving advice when someone's just looking for an ear or a piece of experience or thought, you know, all of those things that we all do on a regular basis, not just in our professional lives, but in our personal lives. So that's really a goal of the Inqli platform, is to make this experience fun and engaging and interactive, where you aren't just, you know, following a protocol, or you're being told, you know, here's all the curriculum of how you learn how to be a great coach or a great mentor. You're just getting little bits of information and advice and tips along the way. And you're really getting an experience where you get to practice these skills in a safe space where everyone is practicing these skills. And we ultimately all become better at asking questions, better at seeking out the people we need to help us solve our complex problems, and ultimately better at our own communication skills. And that's really the underlying Trojan horse of Inqli, is how do we improve these skills all collectively? Because there's really not a person alive who doesn't need to improve communication skills till the end of time. I swear I'll be on my deathbed and be like, oh, there's so much more I could have learned.
So there's a great question in here from Krista Hill as well. And it says, how can you validate the knowledge of mentors? Is there a basic screening process to ensure folks are tapping into high level knowledge?
I love that. So really the goal of the Inqli platform is that we are all learners and we are all capable of being mentors. But what we need is a container that's created that gives us that guidance of how we share our knowledge, how we show up, are we giving advice, instruction, coaching, those kinds of things. So the way that we are validating mentors is through their organization. So we know that if you join us through an organization like Rainforest Alberta or InceptionU or Apple or TELUS or any of our enterprise customers, we know you are who you say you are. We know you're probably going to be on good behavior because everyone knows you are who you say you are. And we tend to be on better behavior there. And we are guiding and promoting this kind of community through the platform that is really self-managed by the community as well as managed by technology. So one of the things that we have funding to do, which is really, really exciting, and that we're going to be working on with InceptionU as well. We're working with one of their cohort teams right now. We have some funding to explore using natural language processing and really understanding how we are matching content, people to people, questions to replies, how we are matching using natural language rather than tagging systems. So if anybody here has ever used anything with a tagging system, I'll use a dating app because that's like the most obvious one. It's all tag based and it relies on the individuals to understand the tags that they're using, and your version of tagging and my version of tagging could be very different. What natural language processing does is allows us to understand that jogging and running are probably pretty close to the same thing. I just might be a slower runner than you, so I call myself a jogger, but we're probably interested in the same thing. And so natural language processing is really, there's a lot of experimentation to do there into the future, and using those kinds of tools ethically and unbiased and all those kinds of things are what we're experimenting with so that we can really ultimately create the best matches and really improve that process over time. So yes, you can report and block and do all the typical things on a platform that help keep that community inclusive and supportive of the members of the community, because we know who everyone is. It's not an open community like Quora or Reddit, where every mentor on the platform, you don't know who you're talking to, where they're coming from. There's no accountability. That is not the case with Inqli, which is very different from some of the other platforms out there. So I hope that answers that question.
All right, and so we'll watch for if the response to that. And then there's a question from Peter LaFontaine about, does this platform teach people how to become coachable? And if so, what are the key ingredients to becoming coachable?
Ooh, that's a better question for Margo. I'll start with part one and then I'll let Margo take part two. But part one is, yes, absolutely. This experience of if we're guiding mentors to ultimately be better coaches, but we're not guiding people to be more coachable, those two things don't work very well together. And that's often one of the challenges in these mentor-mentee relationships, coach-coachee relationships, is that it's a two-way street. Mentorship goes both ways, coaching goes both ways. We all need the same skills. I don't know if anyone's ever been a part of a mentorship or coaching training program. I've seen this happen at many education institutions before, where a whole bunch of academics or professionals or instructors get training in being coaches and mentors. And then a whole bunch of students come in who have no access to that training, no understanding of the training that these professionals and educators received. And they don't know how to be coached. They don't know what that means. They don't understand it. And those relationships ultimately break down because they don't come to it from the same place. Whereas when those programs are implemented and everyone who's going to participate in the program gets the same training, those programs are really, really successful. So it's absolutely, we have an amazing human being on our team. Thanks, Gary. High fives, Gary. We have an amazing human on our team who Margo has had the pleasure of getting to know as well, whose name is Jen Gresham. And Jen Gresham is a researcher and a scientist and a brilliant human being. But more importantly, Jen has worked with people as a coach, coaching coaches, and working with people exploring new careers and career shifts and changes for many, 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 many years. And she is actually responsible for creating all the content that lives on our platform that is not only supporting people to be great coaches, but supporting people to be coachable, because that is really critical. What does that mean? That's every bit about self-awareness, language we use. I'll let Margo speak to being coachable, because that's certainly more her expertise than mine.
Well, and so thanks, Rebecca, and thanks, Peter, for the question as well. And so some fundamental things that we've seen now, and building on what Rebecca said, often we've experienced throughout our lives, what we have experienced is not coaching. What we've experienced is I go to the expert and they tell me what to do. And sometimes that doesn't fit for us. And then there's this whole internal process that can happen that can actually have an unintended consequence of eroding confidence, because it's like, well, I didn't do that. And maybe it's because I'm not good and I'm not capable and all these other things. That when we actually do a full coaching process, which is about pulling out the information from the other person, it sometimes takes the person being coached time to get used to that. Because we've also been conditioned to have right answers and wrong answers, again, good questions and bad questions. And so stepping into a coaching relationship can be quite a different experience for someone. And that they might even say, well, I'm just coming, like, just tell me what to do, because we've conditioned people to be told what to do. So in terms of some of the key foundations that I've seen that help someone be more coachable, curiosity. Can you be curious? And not to overuse a word that's at risk of being overused, vulnerable. Can you say, I don't know? With the caveat, I don't know yet. Are you able to not have the answer? Are you able to really step into that space of not knowing what to do and knowing that it's a process of emergence and that I will find it, and that's part of the reason that I'm stepping into this. And sometimes people aren't coachable yet. right? And so even as the mentor, recognizing that it may not be that someone is completely uncoachable. Again, for all the other factors I mentioned earlier and the conditioning we've each had, it may be some of that, and it will take time for them to become coachable. And so as the mentor, what's that space that you can create for them to find that way to become even more coachable? Does that address what you were looking for, Peter? Okay,
Thumbs up.
thank you.
Thanks for a great question. You guys have good questions.
Yeah.
Love a group with good questions.
And what I want to make sure that we do, so by the way, we are going to make a page accessible to each of you to indicate your interest in becoming a mentor and for this pilot. We're going to encourage you to share it with others that perhaps you've respected what they've done. Perhaps you've learned from them that you recognize, hey, this person would really be able to do this really well. And we're going to make the link available to be able to sign up to be a mentor. Again, this is about testing out and helping inform that mentor side of the platform. And Rebecca is going to speak to that in a moment as well. One thing, so yeah, I think that's that. And I'm looking that there is a hand up, Jen Morrison.
Of course, I have a question. Rebecca, I'm just wondering if you can, because my assumption is like when you become a mentor on the platform, you also engage being a mentee as well. So it just seems very reciprocal. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Good question, Jen. Yes, absolutely. So our intention with the platform is that we are all learners and we are all capable of being mentors, right? And so when we go and talk to people about being mentors, why people do or don't mentor, either informally or formally, the two answers to that question that I get more often than any others are: one, nobody's ever asked me. Two, I don't know how. I don't know how to mentor. And I think it's the same thing as when people say, oh, I'm not creative. Really? Really, we're human beings. Of course we're creative. And so creating the kinds of environments of pulling that out of someone else is really about making the process as simple as possible and giving them the support they need to be learning new skills along the way that they can use on the platform. So as an example, as a mentor on the platform, you can ask questions just like anyone else can and be connected to other people, because we at Inqli, and certainly I believe the InceptionU folks share this as well, we don't see that being top down. We don't see that being, hierarchical in terms of age. The amount I learn from 18 and 20-year-olds on a regular basis is still blowing my mind on a daily basis. It's not about that going one particular direction. It's really about creating that safe space where people can ask questions, people can respond to questions, and people can be guided through the process along the way, and making it as simple as possible so that and you'll see this when we when you get into the platform, if you choose to participate in that way, you'll see how we guide both asking questions and replying to questions so that it's really clear to you, oh, I'm doing this right. I know how to do this. I can do this just like anyone else can. And then along the way, you're gaining better and better skills of doing that thing better and better and better. And so I will be super clear with everyone that the goal of bringing mentors on first is really, really critical. So this is why we're reaching out directly to communities like yours that we know can understand this. Building a platform to serve learners who have lots of questions is about bringing the mentors in first. Because if you as mentors know that you're coming into the platform, that engagement will be low to begin with, because we're going to be trickling in more and more learners. And as more and more learners join the platform, we'll have to have more and more mentors joining the platform. And finding that balance, nobody knows the answer to that balance. But we know historically from tests, mentors will stick around. Mentors will go, that's cool, just engage me when you're ready. Learners will not. They will be like, there's no action here, I'm out of here. So we really, really, really need to engage mentors first and have mentors know and understand that in order to build up the platform and engagement on the platform, we need people like you who are going to patiently go, that's cool if I don't get any matches for a couple of weeks, or that's cool if I have them trickle in here and there, knowing that they will increase, and knowing that you have total control of, if you don't want them to increase and you only want to engage once a week for 10 minutes, that's okay too. But if you want to engage every day, that engagement on the platform will increase. So in terms of your question, Jen, the learner-mentor experience is really one and the same, in that we are all learners. So there's going to be some incredible human beings with incredible skills and experience and expertise on the platform. It's everyone's opportunity to ask great questions and be connected to people who can engage with those questions and ultimately help us all find our way. Did that answer your question, John?
Thanks for that question. And Rebecca, I'm keeping track of your time because I know you have an exciting presentation you need to do shortly. So from a logistical perspective, wanting to make sure that we do get the link out for people to be able to sign up on to be a mentor. And also, if your organization, if you're with one of these larger organizations and a smaller organization, if you're with an organization that you think might be interested in micro volunteering and having your organization have other people get on board on the sign up form, you'll be able to also see that and check a box and let us know who to get in touch with and how to get in touch with them. In terms of, there are a couple of other questions that are coming up here as well. So while we make sure that it says, okay, and the web page isn't accessible to the public yet, but will be right after the call. So do watch for that as well. And wanting to make sure that we get that and a couple more questions. Mike Webster has, how does this apply to reverse mentorship? I'm not sure if we need, did you need clarification on that question, Rebecca?
Yeah.
Me too. Mike, if you don't mind unmuting and letting us know what a little bit more about what you mean by reverse mentorship.
I think that Rebecca answered the question. It's about that reciprocal relationship and learning as much from the mentees as you're learning from the mentors. So,
Thank
That's
you.
great. I'm glad you brought that up, though, because it does deserve a fine point. And it's an experience I've had many times where I'm checking in with someone who's 20 years younger than me and going, is this as valuable for you as it is for me? Because this is awesome. And I always say that the benchmark there is, you're doing a great job as a mentor if the relationship is really working for you and it's really working for them. Because the amount I learn in that, like exactly what I think you're talking about, Mike, with the reverse mentorship, is that when it's working, you're both getting so much from the relationship that you ultimately don't want it to end.
And as in building on that reverse mentorship, again, that's a key reason that we have that as a core part of the learning environment, is we strongly encourage at InceptionU in the Evolve program that you actually mentor some of the learners, because we have a diversity of people in there, a diversity of experience. And so some people will have already learned a really significant amount in a certain technology, and we encourage them to work with people who may be at an earlier point in their learning in that, because it's actually going to deepen as well as broaden their own learning in that area by mentoring someone else in that, be that in a technical competence area, be that in some of the essential skills as well. So that's part of the reason that we have that built into the program. I'm going to put in a little plug, by the way. We have an open house. If anyone is interested or knows someone who might be interested in looking at the Evolve full stack programs, we have an open house on July 13th. If you'd like to share that around, we'd really appreciate that. I also see that there is a further question from Peter about, can you talk about who pays for this? He thinks he heard that large companies pay, government, yes, no. So if we can make sure we have that clarity there, Rebecca.
Awesome. So I will, total transparency. Who pays for this today are investors, me out of my pocket for a long time now. Some of our investors, as well as education institutions and industry organizations that have been involved from the beginning. So several different organizations have come together to ultimately fund this, and we are raising capital as we speak to continue funding the development of the platform. So our business model, though, is very different from who pays for this today. The intention is that no government funding will be required, no education institutions will pay, no learners will pay, and that ultimately it will be entirely funded and customer driven by our enterprise customers. And so those are a variety of sizes of enterprise customers. We also provide a completely different set of access for not-for-profits as well. So not-for-profits can access the platform for free now, as well as both learners and mentors. But in the future, once we are at the level where we want to be for enterprise sales. We've been working with customers like TELUS and Apple and organizations that have been informing our development along the way, because the value proposition for them is engagement. So employee engagement is really a much larger picture than any of us. It boils down to trust and psychological safety and all kinds of things in organizations. And what Inqli is very focused on is not only providing them the tangible asset of a pipeline of volunteering opportunities, so their employees are looking for opportunities that are three things: virtual, micro, and skills-based. So that is what all the data is telling us is the critical engagement factor, is that people can do what they're already good at and what they can become better at. If they can do that while they're improving their, what the world calls soft skills and Margo calls essential skills, and I do too, that if we can also improve our own essential skills while we are using the tools, the knowledge, the experience we already have, that's a pretty critical component of being an engaging activity. And then additionally, that is virtual and micro allows us to really toggle that up, down, on, off as it suits our own lives. There's times in our lives where we're going to be retired and have loads of time for that sort of thing and want to spend our time doing that. And there's times where we're going to be doing our MBA and working full time and raising 3 kids, and we're going to have less time. And so it's really important that we are able to control the amount of time we invest as mentors. So from our enterprise employees perspective, it is very much about a volunteerism opportunity, but it's also a talent pipeline. It's also an opportunity to engage with education institutions, work integrated learning, all the things that organizations have been really struggling with for a long time, but have had a big spotlight put on them throughout this pandemic. Having to do that entirely virtually has only shown us all how important it is that this can happen virtually ongoing. So I hope that answers your question, Peter.
Yeah, and about it's another way, as Rebecca's mentioned, there's so many ways to engage in mentorship, and here's another way. And finding and creating that way that's going to work best for you. And that's one of the reasons that we're super excited to be doing this with Inqli as well. It's a learning opportunity for our learners in terms of the opportunity to inform what that user experience is and so on, as well as a learning opportunity for them to start engaging with mentors and start meeting people in the community. And it's another touch point opportunity for all of us in this ecosystem and in the innovation sector to really be meeting a wide variety of people, learning from each other and with each other at the same time. So again, aware of your time, Rebecca, was there anything that you needed to say before you have to hop off?
I don't think so. I know that there was just a little glitch with the page being live, so I will in between in the 3 minutes I have between my next call, I will make sure that is done. It may already be done by the time I get there, but I'll just check and make sure that's done so that you can access the page. By all means, reach out to me directly, reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out to me through the page or through the website. And if anyone has thoughts, ideas, questions, organizations they want to connect us to, we absolutely welcome that. This is really about growing a diverse community. And so the more opportunities there are to connect, particularly in the Calgary ecosystem, but of course beyond as well. We love that opportunity. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to show up today and share with you what we're up to, and for all of your awesome questions. And it was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks,
so
Rebecca.
much.
Back to you, Amber.
I want to say thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you, Margo, for sharing. That was amazing. And I look forward to connecting and like seeing what the mentorship program is all about. And we'll share it on our channel and our Slack and once it's live. And just thank you so much. And for everyone for engaging in conversation, and just thank you. It was so great today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
I know we have 5 minutes left, so if there are any announcements, I mean, feel free to, if you have to run, that's totally okay, but feel free to stay. I do want to say that we do have our podcast. Al put it in the chat. Please listen to it. Please subscribe. Please rate it. It is very awesome. There's amazing guests on there. The hosts are great. Please check it out and listen to it. If you want to be a host, if you want to be a guest, send us an email at info@rainforestab.ca. We also are starting our summer tour series next Wednesday. So we are going to be doing virtual tours of Lunch Without Lunch. One of them happens to be with Margo. She's going to be touring InceptionU of all of you, and we're very excited for that. So yes, join us for those Lunch Without Lunch. They're going to be virtual. They're going to be awesome. We're going to see spaces all over Calgary, all over Edmonton. And now I will stop talking and I will leave it open for everyone else to share their announcements. Thank you so much.
Just wanted to say quickly that Aaron Moffat did an amazing job sharing what COST does, that CAWST, most amazing biosand filter presentation yesterday. So we gave her some feedback on how to grow that business. Anyway, very worthwhile looking at, and a good combination of earth science and technical science and how that can come together and solve a big problem in the world. Anyway, good job, Aaron.
Thanks, Peter. Good job, Aaron. Any other announcements?
Anybody want to win a Harley Davidson? I can get you a ticket and you'll be helping out the children's hospice. Just letting you know, I'll put it in the box. Come on, that's a great program. Who ever heard of a hospice for kids? There is one. Sad but true.
Also, I know it's almost 1, but if anyone wants to stick around and network, feel free. I'll